I just did the math on my dividend income last month. $1,700 landed in my account while I was sleeping. No boss to impress, no meetings to attend, no commute, just money showing up because I own pieces of companies that print cash. Now compare that to my buddy James. He makes six figures, pulls in around $9,000 a month after taxes. Sounds great, right? Except he's chained to his desk 50 hours a week. Missed his kid's soccer game last Tuesday because of a client call. Took his laptop on vacation. And here's the kicker, if he stops working, the money stops immediately. So let me ask you something. Who actually has more freedom? The person making more money or the person whose money works without them? Because I've been on both sides of this equation. And what I'm about to share completely changed how I think about income, work, and what financial freedom actually means. Most people see dividend income as this passive, unreliable thing, beer money at best. Meanwhile, salary is the responsible choice, the stable path, the grown-up decision. And for years, I believed that. I chased bigger paychecks, better titles, corner offices that came with bigger responsibilities and less time. But then something clicked. I started tracking not just how much money I made, but how much freedom I had, and those two things. Not nearly as connected as we're taught to believe. Let's talk about what salary really buys you, because on paper it looks incredible. Steady paycheck, benefits, retirement match, the whole package. You know exactly what's hitting your account every 2 weeks. There's comfort in that predictability. But here's what they don't tell you about salary. It's the most expensive form of income you'll ever earn. Not in taxes, though that's bad enough. I'm talking about what it costs you in time, energy, and options. Every dollar you earn from salary requires you to be somewhere. Doing something, answering to someone. You're trading hours for money. And hours, those are the one resource you can never get back. Think about your typical salary job. You've got your 40 hours, maybe more if you're in tech or finance or really anywhere ambitious people work. Then there's the commute. That's another 8 to 10 hours a week, getting ready for work, decompressing after. We're easily at 55 hours committed to earning that paycheck. Now here's where it gets interesting. During those 55 hours, you can't do anything else. Can't work on a side business. Can't learn a new skill. Can't spend time with family. You're locked in. That salary is buying your time in bulk, and you don't get to negotiate the terms once you've signed the contract. I watched this play out with my friend Sarah. She's a lawyer. Makes about $200,000 a year. Incredible salary by any measure, but she bills 2,200 hours annually. That's just billable hours. Doesn't count administrative work, client development, or the networking she has to do to keep climbing. When I actually did the math with her, she was working closer to 65 hours a week, every week, for the entire year. So that $200,000, it's actually about $60 an hour when you account for real time invested. And that's before taxes slash it down to maybe $42 an hour in actual purchasing power. Still good money, but here's the thing that broke her. She couldn't stop. Taking 2 weeks off meant falling behind on billables, which meant working late to catch up, which meant burning out. The money was great, the freedom was non-existent. Compare that to dividend income. Now I'm not talking about enough dividend income to replace your salary tomorrow. Most people don't start there. But let's talk about what even small dividend income does for your psychology and your options. I remember when my dividend account started throwing off about $300 a month. Not life-changing money, but here's what changed. That $300 covered my car payment, completely. Suddenly, I didn't need my salary to cover that expense. Which meant if I wanted to negotiate harder at work, or take a risk on a new opportunity, or even just push back on unreasonable demands, I had a cushion. That car payment existed whether I showed up to work or not. That's freedom starting to build. Because dividend income doesn't care about your performance review, doesn't care if you take a vacation, doesn't care if you're sick or stressed or just need a mental health day. It shows up. Now let's talk about scalability, because this is where salary really shows its limitations. When you want to earn more salary, you've got basically 3 options. Work more hours, get promoted, change jobs. Working more hours hits a ceiling fast. There's only so much time. Getting promoted, that's not up to you. It's office politics, timing, budget availability. Changing jobs works, but you're still trading time for money, just at a higher rate. Dividend income scales differently. Want more? Invest more. That's it. No boss to convince. No promotion to wait for. No office politics, just capital and time. I started tracking this aggressively about 5 years ago. I was making $78,000 in salary. My dividend account was throwing off maybe $800 a year, basically nothing. But here's what I noticed. Every year, my salary would bump up 3 to 5%. Maybe I'd switch jobs and get a 10% raise. Real money, don't get me wrong, but that required negotiation, stress, proving myself again at a new company. Meanwhile, my dividend income was growing 12 to 15% annually, just from reinvesting. I wasn't negotiating with anyone, wasn't proving anything. The companies I owned pieces of were growing, and my income grew with them. Year 1, 800 became 900, whatever. Year 2, that 900 became about 1,000, still small, but by year 4 I was at 2,000, then 4,000, then 7,500. The growth was exponential while my salary growth was linear, and here's the beautiful part. That dividend growth didn't require more of my time, actually required less. I wasn't working harder hours, wasn't taking on more responsibility. I was spending maybe 3 hours a month managing my portfolio. That's it. Let me show you the math that changed everything for me. Let's say you're making $80,000 a year. Nice solid middle-class income. You're probably taking home about $55,000 after taxes, give or take depending on your state. Now let's say you manage to save 15% of that. You're putting about $8,000 a year into dividend-paying investments. At a 4% yield, which is pretty achievable with quality dividend stocks, that's $320 in year 1. Not impressive, but stick with it. Keep adding that $8,000 annually. Reinvest every dividend. After 10 years, assuming 7% dividend growth and share price appreciation, which is below the historical average, you're looking at about $130,000 in the account, throwing off around $6,000 annually. Still not replacing your salary, but that $6,000, that covers a lot. Groceries for the year, utilities, part of rent. These are expenses that no longer depend on your job. After 20 years with that same strategy, you're approaching $400,000 in the account, generating about $18,000 in annual dividend income. Now we're talking about a third of your original salary replaced by income that requires 0 hours of work. But here's where people mess this up. They see those numbers and think it takes too long. 20 years to replace a third of income. Why bother? Because they're not accounting for what happens to their salary over 20 years. Let me tell you, it doesn't triple. Maybe it doubles if you're really successful, but it's still locked to your time. Meanwhile, that dividend income is completely portable. Change jobs, doesn't matter, take a year off. It keeps coming, decide to work part-time. Your options just expanded dramatically. I have another friend. He spent 15 years building his dividend portfolio while working in tech. Never made huge money, averaged maybe $90,000 over his career. But he was religious about investing 30% of his income. By year 15, his dividend income hit about $40,000 annually. And here's what he did that most people think is crazy. He quit his job and took a position he actually enjoyed that paid $60,000. Everyone thought he lost his mind, taking a $30,000 pay cut, but his total income was now $100,000, 40 from dividends, 60 from the job he loved, and his stress level dropped to almost zero because he wasn't dependent on that salary anymore. The job became optional. Not in the trust fund kid sense, in the I built my own safety net sense. That's freedom that salary alone never provides. Now let's talk about the dark side of salary that nobody discusses, the golden handcuffs effect. This is real and it's insidious. You start making good money. 6 figures maybe, you adjust your lifestyle accordingly. Nicer apartment, better car, eating out more. A vacation that doesn't involve sleeping on your friend's couch. All reasonable things, but now you need that salary. You can't take risks, can't push back too hard. Can't negotiate from a position of strength because you need that next paycheck to cover the lifestyle you've built around your income. I watched this destroy my former boss. He was making about $300,000, hated his job. I mean, truly hated it. He'd complain constantly. But he had a mortgage that matched his income, private school for 2 kids, car payments on vehicles he barely drove because he worked so much. He was trapped. The salary that was supposed to provide freedom had become a cage. And every year, instead of building something that could set him free, he just kept grinding, kept spending, kept needing more. Dividend income breaks that cycle, because even modest dividend income creates options, and options are what freedom actually is. Let me be clear about something. I'm not saying quit your job tomorrow and live off dividends. Unless you've built that up over years, that's fantasy. What I'm saying is this: every dollar of dividend income you build is a dollar of freedom you didn't have before. The person making $100,000 in salary with 0 dividend income has less freedom than the person making $70,000 with $10,000 in dividend income, because that second person has options the first one doesn't. They can take a sabbatical. They can start a business. They can negotiate harder because they're not purely dependent on their paycheck. That 10,000 in dividend income is buying them leverage in every other area of their financial life. Here's another angle most people miss. Salary comes with strings, lots of them. You've got your employment contract, non-compete clauses, intellectual property agreements, performance metrics you have to hit, a boss who can decide your fate in a bad quarterly review. Dividend income has exactly one string attached. Own the shares, that's it. No performance review, no boss, no metrics. The company performs or it doesn't, and you can sell if you don't like the direction. I can move anywhere in the world right now. My dividend income follows. I can work whatever job I want, at whatever pace I want, because I'm not completely dependent on active income. Can someone with just salary say that? Not usually, but here's what really gets me about the salary versus dividend debate. It's not actually either or. The play is using your salary to build dividend income that eventually replaces it. That's the path. Salary is the tool. Dividend income is the goal. You need the salary to generate capital, but you're using that capital to buy back your time through dividend income. Every month, I look at my dividend payments and I calculate how many hours of my life I've bought back. That 1,700 I mentioned at the start, at my old hourly rate, that's about 30 hours of work I don't have to do, every single month, forever. That's what dividend income actually represents. It's buying back your life, one dividend payment at a time. Now I know what some of you are thinking. This is privilege talking. Not everyone can save enough to build meaningful dividend income. And you're right, if you're barely covering expenses, this strategy is harder. But here's what I've learned. Most people who think they can't save actually can. They just haven't made it a priority. They're saving for retirement through a 401k, sure, but they're not building taxable dividend income that they can access whenever they want. I started this journey making $48,000 a year, living in an expensive city. I had to sacrifice. Roommates longer than I wanted, cooking instead of eating out, driving a car that was older than my relationship. It wasn't glamorous, but every month I'd move money into my dividend account before I saw it, before I could spend it. And that account grew, slowly at first, then faster. Then fast enough that I couldn't ignore what was happening. The freedom was building. Not freedom to never work, freedom to work on my terms. And that's the distinction that changes everything, because here's the final truth. Salary measures how much someone else values your time. Dividend income measures how well you've invested in your own freedom, and only one of those is actually under your control. So if you're sitting there making decent money, feeling trapped, wondering why the paycheck never seems like enough, maybe it's because you're measuring the wrong thing. You're counting dollars when you should be counting freedom. Start building dividend income now, even small, even with just $100 a month, because 5 years from now, 10 years from now, you're going to want options, and dividend income is how you buy them. The person who figures this out early, they're going to be working because they want to, not because they have to, and that difference, that's everything.